There is one book in the Bible that I think every man, every young man should read in his life at least once and circle back to every couple of months, every couple of years. Something that we should read as a staple. I think in the world that we live, a lot of young men need guidance. I need guidance. I am just a man that battles with fleshly desires. I'm imperfect. Reading the Bible is something that is healing, and it instills principles, characteristics and discipline that I need to be Christ-like. And 1 Kings is something that we're going to delve into detail in today's video. So if you are a young man watching this, if you are a man watching this, if you haven't read it, go read 1 Kings. Please just go read it and you'll understand why. Everything that I'm going to say in this video is going to make sense. Before we get into this, let's go into a little bit of context, like why 1 Kings, what was happening at that time, what makes this book significant. Now 1 Kings focuses on the story of one person in particular, a king at that time, and that man's name was Solomon. And Solomon, as we know, was a very, very wealthy man. If we look at wealth in today's time, we've got wealthy people like Jeff Bezos, we've got Mr. Beast in terms of YouTube. We do have a lot of wealth right now. And we look at these people and we think we understand that with wealth comes power. And we understand that the more money that you have, you've got the ability to influence a lot of people. You got the ability to do a lot of things. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, for example, these guys can influence elections. These guys can influence small countries. They've probably got more power than small countries. So we know right off the bat what money can do to someone. We know that money can be the downfall of a person. We know that it can turn people and it can rot them from the inside out. And the thing that's interesting with 1 Kings is that it completely obliterates everything we know, right? So if you think Elon Musk is rich, if you think, all of these people, Jeff Bezos, for example, I forgot his name. If you think that these people are rich, nothing. This is peanuts. Like when we go back to the Old Testament, we learn 1 Kings, these guys were rich. These guys were wealthy. And so when we study 1 Kings and we look at Solomon's journey from this thirst for wisdom to his downfall with lust, everything just falls so much deeper. Everything just cuts so much deeper. And that's why it's so important, because we can look at these people in today's world and think, you know what, a few million here, a few million there, a yacht, a Lamborghini, and maybe a lose it all. This is nothing. Solomon had the biggest downfall. And so we can look at, these are the people that we want to be looking for. These are the role models. And 1 Kings is a perfect demonstration for that. It's not a mightier than thou book. The thing that makes 1 King so special is that we learn through watching another man's mistake. We literally learn through watching another man's demise. So we're watching this man have his, it's like a Rocky movie, right? He's going through and he gets his moment, he has his big come up and he gets it all. He has the high life, he has absolutely everything. And then we see his downfall. But also what we see in this is we see a lot of God's justice. In the Old Testament, it's often portrayed that God is like this evil ruling tyrant, and he's not at all. We see this very caring and authoritative father figure come in and says, look, you've done this, but your actions do have consequences, and I'm not going to completely give up on you. I'm not going to completely fail you, but you are going to be tested, and you are going to know that you've made a mistake. This displeases me. We can look at 1 Kings, and we're almost reading it from like a third party perspective. So we've got Solomon and what's going on, and then we've also got God and how he's basically treating him and what's actually happening. And we're just sort of watching it. So it's a really privileging experience, right? And what we take from that is a blueprint of how to act and how not to act. And basically what pleases the Lord and what displeases the Lord. So if you're actioning the things that you're learning, it gives you a really good insight as to, right, you probably should have gone ahead and do that because it's going to displease the Lord. You probably should do that because that's a good thing to do. So going back to Solomon, now at the time Solomon was asked for something. He said, God basically said to him, what do you want? And the thing that makes Solomon such a unique standout in the Bible is because most people, if we look at what's going on today, if I was to say, what do you want right now? You'd probably say $1 million, pay my bills, pay off my mortgage. I too would say I'd want a successful business. I'd want lots of people to want to work with me. I'd want to make sure all the people around me are looked after. We're only human. These are probably the things that we'd ask for. But you see, Solomon was different. He asked for wisdom. And this was so unique. It actually sort of shocked the Lord. It pleased the Lord at first, because so many of the other kings at the time, they were asking for riches and they were asking for results. But you see, Solomon asked for wisdom. He wanted the wisdom to be able to know what is just and what is unjust, to be able to understand right from wrong. And this pleased the Lord. It pleased the Lord so much that he gave him wisdom, this ultimate sense of knowing, this godlike sense of, right, this is wrong and this is right. But then with that, he also gave him all the riches, all the wealth. And honestly, it goes into detail into just the amount of wealth that he had in terms of gold, in terms of wheat, and the things that were valuable at that time. There was a lot of silk, there was a lot of cattle, there was a lot of armies as well. So like giving men, I think he had like multiple thousands of men just at will to be able to go and take cities and seize stuff and defend his current kingdom. He was given all of these things as well. So when I tell you about wealth, if we used to have Solomon's net worth in today's figures, he blows out everyone that we could have possibly known in this lifetime and probably the next as well. This guy really had it all. And so he lives his life and he has this wealth and he starts to develop good connections. He's a God-fearing man. He has a relationship with God. It's not like he's just, he was just some ordinary guy. Like Solomon knew God and Solomon walked with God. He knew this. That's why he asked for wisdom. So the book actually starts out really well, as it does with most men. Now you have your come up and everything's good. You're still working. You're still going to the gym, and then certain things begin to happen. Solomon's ultimate demise was lust, and if we look at lust, what lust is, it is a fleshly desire. For most of us, it's going to be, addiction to stuff that we shouldn't be watching online. It's going to be adultery, and it's looking at the opposite sex, so to say, with an unclean spirit, with an impure spirit. And again, I'm trying to be wordy of how I say this because I don't want to get flagged or banned or anything. But what Solomon started to do was he started to put other things in his heart. God made one thing very, very clear, and he does this in multiple books. He does it in Proverbs, I know that for a fact. He wants us, when we look at what our purpose is, if we want to get into heaven, one thing I know to be quite certain is that God is looking for what's in our heart. He's not looking for our actions. He's not looking at all the good that you did. He's looking for what's in our heart. And he specifically says in Kings to keep the commandments in your heart, to keep my teachings in your heart, to keep God in your heart. And this is where the demise of Solomon begins, because what he started to do was he looked at what was in his heart, and women started to come along, multiple women. And what he did, and this is the instant demise, is he put women in his heart. He put lust in his heart where God was meant to be. So he replaced God. And when you do that, you basically fall into idolatry. And idolatry is, again, it's one of the 7 commandments. You shall have no other God but me. You should worship the Lord with all your heart and all your might and all your strength. And so what Solomon did here was he started to go after these different women. And this was multiple as well. And he started going off after different, I think they call them concubines at the time, like side pieces, so to say. And he just started to tick these off piece by piece. And it started to snowball and snowball. And eventually went after this one woman called Jezebel, which was like, I think she had like ties with the devil, and she just wasn't like a nice woman. And she basically like seduced him, and he went to strive after her. I think she was, I don't even know if she was real at the time or something like that, but Jezebel was like the real turning point. And the thing that gets interesting here is, at this time, God was well within his right. He was absolutely in his right to just close the door on Solomon whatsoever and think, you know what, you've done wrong, so that's it, we're done. Cuts the tie straight away. But he doesn't. And this is where we see God's fairness and justness and think, you've done wrong, but he's not going to give up on us. He never gives up on us. Even throughout all this time, he doesn't take away all the kingdoms of Solomon, even for his son and his son's sons and all the people that came after him. He never fully closes the door on us. But what he does do is he tests our patience. And when Solomon, so Solomon gets tested, and he gets tested multiple times. So he's looking at, testing, he allows other people to come and fight for his kingdom. Other people try to take his spot, and eventually Solomon does lose his title as king, and he loses a lot of his power. He loses that thing that he very much asked for. And this continues to go down, because once Solomon replaces God in his heart, everyone else starts to do that. It's like with this cycle that I learned in the Bible study course of like, we're saved, and then we basically unsave ourselves and throw ourselves into sin. And that's what Solomon did. He started this cycle. And so after Solomon's demise, there's a section in 1 Kings where it's just king after king after king of, they do this next thing wrong, and it displeases the Lord, and the Lord tells us about it. And there was this instance where I think when Solomon took a specific country, it was almost like a rivalry, right? And he took a country and he killed all of the men inside of there, and there was a son. And then Solomon had a son as well. And when Solomon's son essentially became to be king, or maybe it was Solomon that was still king, the son from that kingdom that he took and of the fathers that he killed, he was the one to come back and test Solomon, and he was the one to basically retake the kingdom, I think. And again, I'm really going off of memory here. But scripture aside, and the points I'm trying to make here, is God still didn't give up on us. When he should have done, when he had all the right to do, he tested us. And he was very specific in how he tested us, so that he knew that we'd done wrong. It's not that he's doing these things to be mean or to be a tyrant. He chose that specific person. He could have just let any old random person come and test Solomon for the kingdom. But he went after someone that Solomon knew that, right, yeah, we've had business before, we've had a rivalry, there's been bad blood, and this is the person that's coming now to test Solomon for the kingdom. And this continues to go throughout. Loads of people being tested, loads of people being, you've done this and this is wrong. It's just this clear-cut understanding of knowing that this is wrong and this is what you should be doing. And I guess to round this video off, because I realise we've gone into a true deep dive into the actual story of Solomon, I wanted to turn this into why every young man should read this. I think what you should be looking at here is what is actually in your heart. Don't think of this video that you need to go and reset all your goals, but I just want to question what is actually in your heart. Because for a long time, for me, what was in my heart was Lamborghinis and Ferraris and money and wealth and power and riches. All of these things that a lot of the kings at Solomon's time were too asking for. I think what we should learn from Solomon is that, why not, instead of asking for results and just things from the Lord as if he's a magic genie, why don't we start asking to be better? To understand that we don't have all of the answers. So why don't we start asking for knowledge and for the Holy Spirit to come through and guide us to go to these things, go to these heights, so that these things, these riches and wealth and fruits of our labour naturally fall to us anyway, because we're so busy of being Christ-like and so busy of being pleasing to the Lord and obedient that our kingdom will survive. Our kingdom and our empire will be built because it's built on the foundation of God. So start asking yourself some questions as to what's in your heart. And then also just learn from Solomon. Women are everywhere, especially if you're a young man. We've got the Matrix, for example, the lady in the red dress. It's going to happen, right? We are but mere mortals that constantly battle with fleshly desires, right? But if we are just normal, ordinary people, and we've got someone like Solomon, the richest man that really ever lived, this guy was really about that life, and he too struggled with lust. We've got a blueprint of saying, look, this guy struggled, don't make the mistakes. Really, there's no excuse for you to be struggling with these things. And I know that's harsh, and I'm trying to tell myself this as well, but there is absolutely no excuse that you should be struggling with lust if we have a literal book in the Bible that says, this man was wealthier than you'll ever be in 10 lifetimes, and yet he still made the mistakes. Just don't do it. Look at the good things that Solomon did, ask for wisdom, and just don't do the other dumb stuff that he did. It's as simple as that. The Bible is phenomenal at telling you how to act and how not to act. And it's a fantastic blueprint for if you're looking to improve your life and want to become more Christ-like. I'm still imperfect and I will never be enough in my eyes for Christ. But it's this idea that I can just listen and learn from the Bible, be childlike, like I'm just at school. I'm just going to listen. Yes, teacher, yes, sir. I'm just going to take it. I'm just going to learn from it. And as long as I do these things, I can't really go too far wrong. I've got some of the greatest people that ever lived in this book, and I can look at their lives and how they worked and how they preached the word. I've got a perfect example of to what to do and what not to do. So I'm going to finish the video there, and I hope you enjoyed it.